Are you ready to run through that brick wall? Are you ready to drink gallons and gallons of maroon Kool-Aid? Oh my goodness, the season cannot come fast enough. This past weekend, if you weren't already hyped, this past weekend must have got you hyped to the highest possible degree. Bobby P took to the podium, as you just saw. He really comforted a lot of Aggies with his words because, there's a lot of speculation about the relationship, mostly from the national landscape, not so much from Aggies. A lot of speculation about that not working out with Jimbo. There was an open practice this weekend as well. Lots of glimpses at lots of players, lots of newcomers. We get to see the development of some of these other players. I unfortunately was not there, but plenty of you guys were. Tons and tons of reports from practice this weekend to talk about. Lots of things to be excited about. Did this weekend add to your win-loss prediction on the year? To many, it did. To many, this past weekend was enough to make them add a win to their projected Aggie win total on the year. That's pretty crazy. An interview and an open practice. And you know what? I don't know if I can blame them. It was very encouraging. We saw a lot of great things this weekend, so let's talk about it. So first, I want to talk about the man, the myth, the legend, Bobby Petrino finally taking the podium for the first time as the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M. He did a great job of easing the minds of plenty of Aggie fans across the nation. There was this perception, mostly amongst the national talking heads and national fans of other programs, that Jimbo and Bobby were two alpha males that were destined to collide. And I think this interview that Bobby gave kind of stomped that into the ground. I don't think that is at all really on the radar anymore. Bobby essentially said that Jimbo's the man, Jimbo's his boss, he has a job to do, and he's going to do his job. He seemed very happy to be at Texas A&M. He seemed very happy to be in the position that he's in. He spoke about his desire to re-enter this power conference world as a coordinator and get back into that teaching role, get back into that coordinator role, work with the quarterbacks, work with the offense, work with the receivers, and get back into that play calling mindset, which he's obviously in at Texas A&M. He said that he would be calling the plays. He said the plays are technically called during practice when they're running scripts, when they're running scenarios. Third and short, we're going to run this play, or this play. Third and 5, well, we're going to run this play, or this play. So that stuff's all drawn out before. He just gets that final say about which specific play, which specific stud they're going to target. Because he said they were targeting studs. His philosophy has always been that FTS mantra, the feed the studs mantra. And he spoke about that this weekend. He said the main objective of his play calling is to get the ball into the best players' hands. And he railed off all of the best playmakers. We need to get the ball to Noah, to Evan, to Moose, to Anias, whoever it might be. That's what each play is designed to do. So if we're in a third and short, maybe Ernest Crownover needs to be the short yardage guy here. And yes, there were rumors that he was the number one short yardage guy at practice this weekend. I'll talk more about that later. Right now we're talking about Bobby. We love to hear that because oftentimes it seemed like the play calling with Jimbo was very much designed to be unpredictable over anything. You think there would be a tendency here? No, he's going to do this. You think this would happen here? No, he's going to pass the ball. That seemed to be the number one priority with Jimbo. With Bobby, it really seems like we're going to try to get these guys involved. And there are a lot of these guys to get involved. We're very excited about this receiver room, these quarterbacks, these tight ends. We don't know what we're going to get from the running backs, but damn, we know there's talent there. Bobby wants to feature these guys. Bobby wants to get these guys showcased and involved. So that was very, very encouraging to hear. More on him and Jimbo. It just sounds like Bobby understands his role on this team. It sounds like Bobby knows he's a teacher first. He's here to do a job, and that job is to call plays. He's not here to take over. He's not here to be the head guy. He's here to fill this role. And damn it, I am so confident that he's ready to do that. And of course, keep in mind, Bobby was talking to Aggies, for Aggies, as an Aggie. Of course, he's going to keep everything positive. He's going to say what we want to hear. But what was perhaps more encouraging than what he said was his overall demeanor, his poise, his confidence level in what he was saying, but also in his players. It sounds very much like Bobby is super excited to be calling plays for the players that he has. And it seems like he's even more excited to be working with Jimbo. He says his respect for Jimbo has only increased since joining the staff at A&M. And I believe him. Just based on his poise and his confidence and just his demeanor in this interview, I think Bobby is the man for the job. I'm beyond encouraged by this dynamic within the team just based on the way he gave his interview. And he talked for a long time. It really seemed like the media team at A&M knew that Bobby needed the floor the longest. All the other coordinators spoke, Durkin spoke, Jimbo spoke, Elijah Robinson spoke. But Bobby took the podium for 10 minutes more than all those other guys. So there was definitely an effort here to get Bobby on the podium and to let people question him and to let him talk. And I think he did a wonderful job. I think we should all be very encouraged. If you have not watched it, go watch Bobby's presser. So moving on to reports from this open practice. Of course, A&M has one open practice a year under Jimbo. He's known to keep a tight lip on things. You really won't get a great glimpse of what the offense is until the first big game of the year. So you're looking at maybe week 2 versus Miami to really get a full understanding of the playbook, the rotations, how things are going to go for the whole year. But we saw a lot of encouraging things, and there are 2 main takeaways that have been reported from this session. First of all is the overall health of the team. Only a couple of players not suited out, and only a couple of players sitting out of select drills that are suited out. That is very encouraging. This time last year, there was a lot of turnover, a lot of new players, and then a lot of those players were hurt and not practicing. Really thinking about the O-line, how there were so many new bodies and new players there, and then Bryce Foster just wasn't able to practice because he was sick. So seeing that and the team as a whole practicing, struggling, succeeding together is very encouraging to see. Second of all is just the overall urgency, pep in the step of this whole team, specifically the offense. Everything seems to be dialed in earlier than you would normally see in a fall camp. I think a lot of that has to do with Bobby, and Bobby is front and center on these offensive drills. Jimbo is taking a few steps back, literally and figuratively, and Bobby is the one in command of the quarterbacks and the receivers and the skill positions in these 11-team unit drills. So that's really cool to see. Now going back to this offensive line, it does seem like the D-line gets the better of the O-line more times than not, but I think that is to be expected with the way this D-line is able to rotate bodies in and out. Just the sheer amount of talent in that position group going up against an offensive line unit that struggled last year is really trying to find itself, really trying to find its solid 5, whereas you have like 12 guys in the D-line you can throw at them. So I think it's normal to hear this D-line kind of get the better of the O-line. What I really like is this O-line is for the most part healthy. Deuce Fothery is nursing that knee coming back to health, but he's suited out and he's just limited. It's not like he's not practicing. He's still out there working. This O-line is struggling, succeeding, has its ups and downs, but they're doing it together as a unit. And last year, chemistry was a major issue there. So I think it's really good to see the health there, the team working together there, struggling together there. Because when they come out against New Mexico, the first game of the year, they're going to put all these struggles, this grinding they're doing now to work against New Mexico. Much less talented D-line than what they're going up against in practice. And you can say that about probably 10 out of the 12 teams they're going to play this year. If it's hard in practice, it's not going to be as hard in the games. You want practice to be really hard. I think this O-line is getting a great taste of that. Receivers continue to look great. You have 4 known commodities there with Noah Thomas as the anticipated breakout performer. Everyone's talking highly about him. When Bobby listed his 4 Feed the Studs players, he listed Noah Thomas first, and I'm probably reading way too much into there, but hey, everyone's talking about him, so why not read into it? Noah should be a stud. But Ja'Day Walker, the big 6'4 wide receiver transfer, apparently looking really good, adding depth to that room that already has so much to work with is just so encouraging to see. Tight ends, obviously another stacked position group on this team. Jake Johnson, the standout of this group right now, running with the ones, looking really good, looking to build on what he was kind of doing towards the end of the year where he was playing more, getting healthy. I expect a breakout type of season for Jake Johnson. Moving over to the defense, cornerback 2, it's still being battled for, but Javen Thomas, the true freshman DB, really turned heads in this session. running with the ones. They're looking at him to fight for that spot. His body looks tremendous for his age. He looks like a giant for a true freshman DB. Really cool to see him kind of break through and make a name for himself early in this camp. Noah Thomas talked about him being a guy that was harder to go against and challenging the receivers. Really cool stuff. Let's see if he can make it happen. He's fighting for that spot. And then the linebacker depth, another area of concern on this team. J.D. Davis, the big linebacker transfer, looking really promising out there to get some meaningful snaps to relieve the starters in Chris Russell and Edgerrin Cooper. Look for him to continue to progress. And someone I didn't mention on this offense was Reuben Owens. Reuben Owens had a couple of huge plays in this practice session. Obviously, he's a true freshman. There's going to be a lot of things to iron out, but it just kind of confirms what we think of him, and that is that superstar, super high-ceiling, five-star player that we know we got, but he's just showing it now, and I look for him to have a major role on this team. All three running backs having their moments. I'm really thinking we're going to get that three-man rotation that we've been wanting. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Ernest Crownover was running in some of that situational stuff. He was the guy they were going to on the third and short plays. He looks like he's going to be that short yardage back, at least right now in camp. Lots of things can change, but he was the guy they were leaning on in that situation. So, of course, we're taking everything with a grain of salt. It was only like the fifth practice of the year, the first one that we got to see from start to finish, but really, really encouraging. I think the reports you would say were pretty glowing from this practice session. Just the sense of urgency and the togetherness of this team. Of course, you expect it. Pretty much all the production from last year was back. You're very encouraged by your transfers. I'm going to do a video about these transfers and these newcomers, the ones that are looking like will make a name for themselves this coming season. I think I'm going to do like a top 10 most likely to make an impact on the year kind of video, so look out for that. But very encouraging day for Aggie football. Between the interviews, the practice, the players who are performing, the overall team, the injuries, lack of injuries, I would say this was a positive weekend for the perception of Aggie football. So what do you guys think? Were you guys turned on or turned away by any of the things this weekend? What were your takeaways from this last weekend? I think the overall consensus opinion was this was a very positive weekend for Aggie football. So can they build on it? Will they keep progressing forward? Because I think we're at a great starting point for fall camp. I think it's very encouraging, and I can't wait to keep talking about it and consuming whatever Aggie football is building right now in its preseason. So, guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow in the next video. Remember, daily videos through all of fall camp on the weekdays. Subscribe if you want to and if you like this content. I appreciate you guys. Gig 'em.